Howard Chen works in the advertising department of a large multinational company. His work dominates his life. He works hard to perform well at work. The rest of his department recognizes his strong impact. But his boss undermines his work because he is threatened by him. His boss, Mr. Wang, informs him that there will be layoffs at the firm and he should work harder. One day, Howard gets an invitation to try a new VR game called Dreamland. He has been selected as the perfect candidate for their dream tests. He will have many different life experiences. Howard dismisses the proposal because he has work the next day, but he is then informed that the system has the function to bring a duplicate of anyone from the real world into the Dreamland. Howard thinks back to when the new director of the advertising department came to the office. The new director, Miss Liu, is a beautiful woman of a highly dignified nature. His boss introduces Miss Liu to the whole staff. He specifically mentions those who have grappled for his favor. Howard has never done this to his boss. He can only watch as the butt kissers are introduced gracefully to Miss Liu. After meeting everyone in the office, Miss Liu asks what about Howard. Howard eagerly gets up to introduce him to Miss Liu. But his boss quickly dismisses him and tells Miss Liu that he is nobody. Howard is shocked. Mr. Wang says he is nothing more than a mediocre worker with poor interpersonal skills. He tells her that she should not waste her time on him. Miss Liu says she understands and says goodbye to the department. On the way home, Howard catches up with his old college friend. Howard says that he thought if he worked hard, he would be recognized for his efforts. His friend tells him that Howard has to pick a side. It would do him some good to flatter the boss and kiss some bums sometimes. Howard remembers his friend at college and how he used to rally the students to fight against injustice. He tells his friend he is now different from how he used to be. His friend leaves. As his friend leaves, Howard overhears a conversation between his boss and Miss Liu. His boss is trying to suck up Miss Liu and reassures her she does not have to waste time on these lowly workers. She tells him that she knows what she's doing. The boss tells her that she is giving mixed signals as her station is higher than the employees. The boss looks at Howard and threatens his position at the firm. Howard realizes that hard work does not pay off at work. He has had enough. He will resign in the morning. But before that, he will enter the Dreamland Adventure world and bring Miss Liu and Mr. Wang to the Dreamland. But the system can only bring one person into the Dreamland. The system picks Miss Liu, whose full name is Sabrina Liu, to enter the system. The Dreamland system will activate at midnight. Howard is disappointed that he could not bring Mr. Wang into the system, as he wanted to repay him for what he did. But the system detects his excitement. Howard cannot deny that he finds Miss Liu attractive and wanted her to be his servant NPC. The Dreamland only activates when you fall asleep. When Howard awakes, he meets the administrator of the Dreamland system, I-63, who introduces the game before the scenario starts. The mission is Doomsday Survival. Howard has to survive for 180 days. He enters the door, and the challenge begins. He wakes up in his bed. It seems like nothing has changed. Howard thinks that he has been a fool. It was foolish to think the system could create a whole new world. He prepares to go to work. When he leaves his house, he sees nobody on the streets. Chaos unfolds. The system informs him of the nature of the Dreamland. All the people in the world have disappeared. Howard realizes the nature of his situation. He starts to plan and think of all the necessary supplies. He decides to use these 180 days to plan for life after his resignation. A scared pet dog runs past him. Its owner has gone missing, so it is unleashed. Chasing the pet dog is a tiger. The tiger roars and gets closer to Howard. Howard is terrified. The tiger starts licking his face. Howard was terrified because he had just washed his face. The tiger is named Dummy and is an extremely friendly tiger from the petting zoo. It had stuck out because the zookeepers have all gone missing. Howard laments about how the game considers even the smallest details of the real world. After day 7 in the world, Howard realizes that the challenge is harder than he thinks. All the essential resources were unavailable without power. Food starts to rot. Howard had found some long-lasting biscuits so he wouldn't starve, but the lack of vitamins left him in dangerous health. Struggling, he found solace in a restaurant. In this restaurant, he found a diesel generator and a frozen meat fridge. Howard understood generators as his father's shop had a similar generator. He found the store at the right time. Any later and the generator would have broken, and the meat would have gone bad. Howard decided to live in this restaurant. He made a plan to gather all the resources he could during the daytime. During the night, he would cultivate some land to grow crops. After day 31, Howard started to hallucinate. He is discussing his plans with the illusion of his old college friend in a car. Life was getting difficult. Howard's facial hair and hair had become unkempt. His eyes had also lost color. The city was completely unsanitary. The world was completely dark, and the loneliness was terrible. Howard was tired of this world. His old college friend reminded him that his reality outside the game was not any better. He did not have any skills to earn money in the real world. How does he plan to support himself once he resigns? As his imaginary friend disappears, he is forced to brake rapidly. There is an oncoming vehicle heading straight at him. His car swerves. The oncoming vehicle swerves around. The two drivers lock contact. Both are shocked. It is Sabrina Liu. She crashes her car into another vehicle, and the airbags activate. Sabrina wakes in an unfamiliar room. Her face has been bandaged, and she is wearing men's clothes. She explores her unfamiliar surroundings. She finds a generator and fresh food. She then walks into the bathroom, where she finds Howard shaving. He encourages her to cook the meal he had prepared. While eating, Sabrina recognizes him from the dinner at work. She asks his name once again. Howard tells her his name and is surprised that the game copied the memories from the original Sabrina Liu. They share their survival stories. Sabrina went back to her hometown and found no people there either. Howard and she are the only people left in this world. Howard invited her to team up to survive because it was a common game strategy. He asked her to live with him as he had all the essentials to make a better life for her. Sabrina agreed to live with him, but she quickly informs him clearly that he is not her type. Ouch. She wants there to be some distance between them when they live together. Howard was upset because he only wanted a friend. His only friend up to this point was a mannequin who he has pretended to be his old college friend, Donald. It was like he was in the old world and was being judged before she has gotten to know him. She tells him that she will work her share to stay in the house. Howard accepts and reminds himself that this is only a game. It is acceptable that women want some space. On day 32, Howard woke up to loud noise in the morning. She had created a new bedroom and provided a walkie-talkie for contact. But Howard noticed something up. His mannequin, Donald, was missing. Sabrina threw it away. Donald ran outside to find the Wilson to his Tom Hanks. Howard had found some guns from a police station and put them in a box. The automatic pistol had gone missing. Sabrina had taken the pistol. Howard suggests that they should see each other less often since Sabrina is on such high alert. Sabrina is annoyed. She asks Sabrina to put himself in her shoes. She needs to protect herself as a woman. Why can't he be a gentleman? Howard takes it as an insult. Howard and Sabina have a confrontation. Howard tells her to be more pragmatic. It is day 120 and the world has changed. It has been 3 months since the quarrel. Howard and Sabrina have to survive for 60 more days. Sabrina has dedicated her time to growing plants. With her help, the area has become lush with vegetables. But Howard and her have not spoken since their confrontation. Howard spends his time talking to his mannequin Donald. There is no edible meat anymore. Howard is scouting for meat. He visits Dummy, the tiger, regularly and gives him meat. While visiting Dummy, he sees wild deer. Howard gets the idea to hunt deer for meat. A typhoon hits the region. Howard runs to his car. He thinks of Sabrina, who rides a bike in the mountains every day. Howard checks home, and she is not there, so he drives to the mountain. He finds Sabrina holding a pole. Her leg is bleeding. Sabrina is scared and asks Howard if she will die. Howard reassures her that she will not die. Howard and Sabrina find a mansion in the mountains. They are warming up by a fire. Sabrina has been cycling to this mansion every day. Howard offers to treat her wounds, but she refuses. The mansion is on higher ground. Howard makes plans to migrate to the mansion to avoid the flooded areas. Sabrina's leg is broken, and Howard asks her to stay inside. The weather has changed. It is getting colder. The weather is extremely volatile. It is raining, snowing, and lightning and thunder. Howard visits the old store where they stayed before. The generator has broken down, and the freezer was ruined. The flood ruined the crops and washed away all the food. The situation was desperate. He tried to bring Dummy to the mansion to avoid the storm. But Dummy refused to leave the petting zoo. Howard drives home and tries to think of a solution to the problems he is having. The dreamland is supposed to be fake, but everything is so realistic. The emotions of the Dummy and Sabrina are so difficult to deal with it. As he pulls into the house, he finds Sabrina on the floor. He breaks rapidly. She was trying to do housework as part of the deal, but she only made more work for Howard. Howard picked her up. He told her not to take rash actions and patches her up. Sabrina shouts at Howard that she does not need his help. Howard reminds her of the desperation of the situation. He tells her to recover as soon as possible and help out. Otherwise, they will both starve. Howard plans to go hunting the deer that he saw earlier. Sabrina informs him that the wild animals remember smells that represent danger. Howard hands Sabrina the gun she took earlier. He found it under her pillow at home. He left the gun exactly as it was with the bullets in. He gives her the gun as a sign of goodwill. In the cold winter, Howard decides to go hunting with a shotgun. He lacks the knowledge to hunt deer. The words of Sabrina sticks with him. He builds all types of traps to grab fish or deer. While hunting, Howard struggles. Every time he finds the deer to shoot, they go running. He could hear them, but could never get near them. He was getting tired. It seemed that Sabrina was right. Howard tries to go fishing instead. The water is freezing cold. He uses his only fishing net. He feels a bite on the net. He jumps in desperate to catch the fish. He ends up in the river, but catches no fish. The fishing net is also lost. He comes out drenched and with his health in serious trouble. But he gets a lifeline because a deer is nearby. The deer does not notice him this time. He tries to shoot the deer, but the shotgun recoil is too much for him, and he misses. He has no experience shooting. The day ends with no success, and Howard's health is in a dangerous condition. When he thought it could not get worse, he notices a pack of wolves. They stare at him, but ultimately decide to leave him alone. When Howard gets home, he takes off all his clothes and sits by the fire. Sabrina is confused. Howard tells her not to get the wrong idea. He is simply freezing. Sabrina has been going through his stuff and found his wallet. She noticed a picture of Howard with a girl. She asks who is the girl. Howard tells her that is his ex-girlfriend. It did not work out because he wanted to settle down, but she was not ready. He asks about her love life. She tells him that she is dating a CEO at a tech company. Howard makes a snide comment about how such a man ends up with Sabrina. In a rage, Sabrina accidentally exposes herself. Howard almost has a nosebleed. Over the next days, Howard continues to hunt. He struggles to have any success. He laments on his lack of experience with a gun or as a hunter. He is unable to get into range to use the shotgun. But his relationship with Sabrina is improving. She talks to him more and never complains that he does not bring anything home. He comes to understand that she is a reasonable and independent person. In their desperate condition, Howard set a trap using his remaining energy. He returns the next day, hoping the trap is successful. The trap was successful, but the wolves had eaten the caught deer. Howard futilely shoots at the deer in his desperation. This dreamland is tougher than his real life. Howard and Sabrina are down to 1 tomato and lettuce. Sabrina shares her life story with Howard. How she was puppet controlled by her father until she was 18 years old. She was never allowed to play or make her own life plans. Her dad controlled her and insisted that she depend on him. He told her she is nothing without him. These experiences drove Sabrina to fight for her independence. This is where her confidence comes from. Howard realizes that life is not easy for her either. Howard reflects on how he worked so hard without no reward. Sabrina asks him what he has that makes him stand out. Howard can only name one thing, which is he never gives him up once he has made his mind up about something. Sabrina asks if he has ever fought for what he wants the most. Howard does not answer. Howard asks for recognition if he helps her survive. He wants his boss to recognize his work if it is just once, for them to recognize how important he is. Howard picks up one of the 2 remaining items of food. Howard tells her where to find his body if he does not come home in 3 days. She will know what to do with his body with her unsufferable hunger. Before going away to hunt for what may be the last time, Howard has a final conversation with the imaginary Donald. He laments that it is true. He had never really fought for anything. He never dared to do so. He will stop making excuses and complaining. He pushes the mannequin off the ledge and readies his resolve. Howard takes a gamble to hide his scent by covering himself in the snow. This would cover his scent but risk death. Meanwhile, Sabrina hallucinates of her father as a mouse eating the last item of food. He laughs at her condition and reminds her how easy her life would have been if she just followed his path. She would have married the old CEO, who is the richest man in the world. She soon would inherit a fortune. She rejects his plans and shoots him in the head. Howard uses the other remaining food item to bait a deer while he hides in the snow. Howard finally gets a clean shot. He shoots and kills the deer. Howard celebrates his victory. He returns home carrying the deer. Upon entering the house, he falls after using the last of his strength. Sabrina prepares the meat and puts Howard in a bath to help him recover. Howard is in terrible condition. With his low strength, he asks Sabrina if he has done enough for her recognition. She thoroughly thanks him and tells him how important he is to their survival. Howard is happy as his ex-girlfriend told him that his hard work will never pay off. Sabrina is worried about Howard. She feeds him and kisses him while he is asleep. Howard's condition is desperate, and he cannot stop shivering in bed. Sabrina decides to use body heat to warm him up and sleeps next to him. Howard wakes up and is shocked to find Sabrina naked next to him. Sabrina sees that he is fine and tries to withdraw. Howard pulls her in closer. She asks why Howard broke up with his ex-girlfriend. He tells her that it was because he wanted a family. She tells him that she wants a family too. Howard is shocked. He thought that Sabrina wanted to prove her independence by being alone. She tells him that this choice is part of her independence. She hazily asks Howard to have a family. Howard realizes this is what he always wanted and reassures her. They spent the night together. Sabrina has terrible flashbacks of her father. It turns out that he is not her real father and was simply using her as a tool to get the CEO, Lawrence Du's attention. Life has turned around for the two since Howard brought back the deer. They have found a new way to catch fish and are growing vegetables. Howard goes to visit Dummy, the pet tiger. He sees the wolves from the river eating Dummy. After scaring them away, he returns to Dummy and sees his dying condition. He says goodbye to Dummy and puts him out of his misery. He vows for revenge for his friend. Howard thinks about how dangerous the world is getting. He asks Sabrina to stay inside for the next couple of days. He wants to protect the loving home they have built. He starts to hunt the wolves and kill the members of the pack. He does not tell Sabrina because he does not want her to fight the wolves. The fight with the wolves becomes bitter on both ends. The remaining wolves disappear with no trail. Howard is worried about them attacking. Sabrina is angry that Howard is hiding what is going on from her. They quarrel. Howard refuses to tell her about the threat of the wolves. He tells her to focus on maintaining the house. Howard goes looking for supplies. Meanwhile, Sabrina decides to leave the house after their recent quarrel. While looking for supplies, he finds a manual on how to fix the generator. This is exactly the lifeline they needed. The system informs Howard that the simulation will end in 1 week, and he should prepare to return to the real world. Howard is shocked. He forgot that this is a dreamland. After the announcement, the wolves sneak up on him from behind. They stand near his gun to block him from picking it up. Howard is forced to run out of the store. He engages in a bitter fight with the wolves using his hands and a knife. They attack his legs and arms. He manages to stab one repeatedly with the knife, but then it breaks. The other one charges at him and he kicks it in the head. He then punches it and strikes it repeatedly with the butt of the knife. Sabrina is driving away but cannot help thinking about Howard. He picks up the bag with the generator manual and walks away. However, the wolves are not dead yet. They have gone mad for revenge. They try to attack Howard again, but Howard finds Sabrina's gun in the car. He shoots at the wolves and they run away. He gets into the car, but he is badly injured and drives the car away. Eventually, the car breaks down and the wolves surround the car. Howard is unable to do anything and passes out from his injury in this dangerous situation. When Howard wakes up, he finds his injuries bandaged up. Sabrina found him passed out and drove him home. She took the bag and drove him home. Howard immediately gets up, wanting to fix the generator. He wants to give Sabrina the best chance of survival when he returns to the real world. He fixes the generator. While outside, he notices her car. It is severely damaged. The tires have a wolf fang on them. Both of the wolves' pelts are on the hanger outside. Sabrina ran the wolves over with her car. Howard is bleeding internally from the battle and will die if he does not see a doctor. Sabrina is inside, chopping meat. Howard hugs her and thanks her for doing so much for him. Sabrina reminds him that he sees himself as a tough guy. Is this not bad for his self-image? Howard asks for forgiveness. She asks him if has he ever tasted wolf meat before. It's been 7 days, and Howard is nearing his deathbed because there is no doctor to treat him. Sabrina tries to excite Howard, hoping it will give him some more life. However, he dismisses this and can only focus on giving Sabrina instructions on how to survive without him. It is day 180. The weather has improved. He asks Sabrina if she ever loved him. She tells him no. Howard is happy. He can die with no concerns. Why would she love such a man like him with no good qualities? She lists all his bad traits while crying and holding his hand. Everything turns white. Howard wakes up next to the system administrator. She congratulates him on the completion of the challenge. Howard feels hazed. I-63 tells him this is normal, so he would not confuse world life with the dream life. Soon he will remember the entire dream. Howard cannot stop crying. He remembers something. There was something he told himself that he will never forget, no matter what. The system tells him that it is just a dream and he should not take it too seriously. He has a real life to live. He is graded on his performance in the Dreamland. He gets a B. The criteria for success is the survival chances of the person left in that fantasy world. He could have increased his score by building a broadcast station and taming beasts. He is given his reward and a way to access the system menu at any time. As a reward, he receives an accurate spear-throwing skill. He wakes up in his bed wondering if it was all real. Sabrina wakes up as well. She is surrounded by the maids of the house. They tell her that she has been sleepwalking. Sabrina feels this is not right. What she experienced was more than a dream. Howard returns to work. He meets the real Donald. He tells Howard about the plans to establish a marketing department at the firm, which will lead to layoffs. Because he and Mr. Wang have a bad relationship, he is likely to be the first to go. Howard is not afraid anymore. He tells Donald he will most likely resign anyway, because there are lots of options available in this world. Howard returns to his desk. He starts practicing the new throwing skill he got from the Dreamland with scraps of paper. One accidentally hits Mr. Wang in the face. He calls him into the office. It seems almost certain that he is about to lose his job. Mr. Wang tells Howard he should not have underestimated him. Howard tells him that if he leaves, he should still receive his pay on time. But Mr. Wang jumps on him and happily tells him that he owes him for his teaching in the last 2 years. Howard is confused. Mr. Wang tells him that the vice president, Mr. Liu, is going to have a new marketing department. Mr. Liu insists Howard is on the team. He asks him when did he become a friend of Mr. Liu. Howard does not know who that is. Mr. Wang tries to hug Howard and tells him that the VP must have noticed his potential like Mr. Wang. He lies to Howard that he knew from day one that he will become a big shot, so gave him more challenges. Howard decides to stay and take this opportunity. The other employees are jealous and tell Howard he does not deserve it. He is the head of the advertising department. Mr. Liu visits the office and sees this. Mr. Wang is forced to step in and remand his favorite buttlicker. He gives his position to Donald, who promises to do his best. Mr. Wang tells Howard not to worry about work and that he should get ready to work in the marketing department. Howard is surprised by how nice Mr. Wang is being to him. Mr. Liu invited Howard to after-work drinks. Both are confused. Howard does not understand the reason for his promotion. Mr. Liu is confused about why Sabrina asked him to promote a mediocre employee.